A skill that can be learnt, Christina. The ability to trust in yourself. Yeah, what is trust? It's another good question. Not questioning your abilities all the time. Self-belief, trust. Lovely. So kind of getting gently into the topic of confidence and nerves. And as you'll know from the work that Claire and I do, we are really pioneering in bringing to coaches and leaders and practitioners a broader and deeper toolkit of understanding how the entire human being works, so that we can use scientific and evidenced practical tools to work with some of these topics. That's what we're going to be looking at today. So we thought we'd start with a small experiment. So some of you I know us and have graduated with us and are experts in this. I'm looking at people like Denise and Victoria, and others of you may be totally new to this, but the good news is we've all brought along our bodies. So let's get an experience of working with our bodies. So I'm going to ask you, first of all, we're going to just do a little physical exercise. I'm going to ask you all first just to, can you collapse your physicality? It's fine if you're off camera, by the way, if you want to do this in private, but we do like to see you and work with you. If you just collapse your physicality, maybe down to one side, maybe look at the floor, maybe soften your eyes. And if you're happy to come off mute as well, because this is quite nice. So, and I'd like you to invite you to have the thought and say it out loud. I feel really upbeat and confident. Can you say that? Maybe we can hear a couple of voices.
I feel really upbeat and confident.
Really upbeat and confident.
Really upbeat and confident.
Feel really upbeat and confident.
Confident.
So that's how you do it. So you may notice some things there. You may notice some things, and then we're just going to do the reverse of that. So if you'd like to maybe sit up a little straighter. Yeah, great. Have a stretch, Sana. Sana's now not in the tent. She's in the house. And then maybe ground your feet and just relax, and then take a wide open body posture. And maybe look up to the sky. It's even harder if you smile. And have the thought and say out loud, I feel really down and demotivated.
I feel really down and demotivated. I feel really down and demotivated.
Really demotivated.
So a few smiles going on now. I've done that exercise with a couple of you. Lovely quick exercise, just working with the body. Just a couple of quick comments. Anybody want to make a quick observation? What was that like to have that thought and to say that thought? Who would like to just share their experience quickly? Come off mute and talk.
It just feels very wrong. It feels very wrong. It doesn't fit. It's really difficult to feel what you're supposed to feel, what you're saying in your body, because you're doing the opposite, if that makes sense.
Very good, thank you. Christina's saying the same. Both statements felt fake, incongruent. Somebody else, another couple of comments?
Yeah, they were really in contrast.
Really in contrast,
yeah.
Words and the actions didn't fit together.
Yeah.
I just didn't believe what I was telling myself.
Yeah.
Very interesting, yes. Yes, it wasn't just the saying, it was the thought as well. So the body is incredibly powerful, and as you'll experience over the next 90 minutes, our thoughts can trigger how we feel, and also the way we move, and our state can also trigger our thoughts. But fundamentally, we're looking at things like nerves and confidence. I know we've had some commentary in the chat about what confidence is, but fundamentally confidence, I would suggest, is a feeling. It's a neurochemical state, and that state is going to have a huge impact on how we think, how we feel, how we behave, as all states do. And that's the territory of physical intelligence, which is adding to the toolkit of coaching and working with people, is adding that dimension of what's actually happening in the body. We know nerves are going to be happening in the nervous system, but who learned lots about the nervous system when you were training as a coach? I certainly didn't. for the first 25 years. So understanding the nervous system, understanding the neurochemistry that's happening in our body, and also understanding how we can use the entire mind and body to get ourselves in a state of confidence is going to be extremely helpful when we're working with people. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to introduce Claire now. So many of you know Claire. For those of you who don't know Claire, Claire has a background in dance and choreography, but spent her life, she often says to me, she's a biochemistry geek, and this is always confirmed whenever I join a conversational call with her and a load of other biochemistry geeks, which we did this morning in the MPN Hub, and has spent her life studying the body, and took 2 years out when we met 8 years ago to write the award-winning book Physical Intelligence, which effectively I like to say is a handbook. We should have all been born with this even before we could read. Yes, Kathy's nodding away there. A handbook of how the human being works, which is a very useful thing, because as coaches, when I was first trained as a coach, my coach Terry Morgan asked me to walk into a room and draw a picture of how a human being works and explain it to the group. It was quite a humbling exercise. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, and I'm sorry I'm a bit of a bore, but you'll hear me talking about the need for us really to increase our knowledge of how a human being works. So it's a beautiful book, combining both the performance practices, the science, and the neurochemistry that can help us to help people have improve all aspects of their performance. And Claire and I co-founded the Physical Intelligence Institute and pulled all of this work together so that we can all kind of consume it and build it into our work. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Claire, who's going to take us through some exercises. And as I say, please use the chat. Any questions on anything, and also please use the chat to share your experiences, thoughts, and anything else you'd like to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Well, this is one of my all-time favorite topics, and certainly through my lifetime, I've worked consistently to raise confidence levels and be able to tolerate more risk without being my nervous system starting to scream at me, run, get out, or hide. I've done, I guess, sort of the best part of 35 years studying this, first as a choreographer, a dancer, artistic director of my own contemporary dance company, applying for Arts Council funding, touring, doing, premieres on international stages, the critics coming in, you've got no control over what they're going to say. There's a lot of risk tolerance in any performer putting their work out there. So I really worked hard on that. And then when I moved away from dance and choreography into working in businesses 21 years ago now, I just was very intent on applying and creating a curriculum that would help others who weren't necessarily plugged into the knowledge that we had in the dance world about embodiment and how that could support confidence, really sharing that and making that into a curriculum that now worldwide is becoming recognized. And the book's been published in two Chinese languages, Russian, Greek, Korean, Taiwanese, and of course English, and maybe some others that I've forgotten now. But there's an incredible reach of this work as we go forward, which is exciting. So in a minute, I'm going to ask you to, okay, one thing first, I just want to say, Gavin, I love what you said. Did you catch Gavin's note in the chat about the roots of the word confidence? And I love this as well. Con, as in with, confidence, what's linked to the word faith, fidence, fidelity, connection, faith. So isn't that lovely? With faith. That's a beautiful description. So I'm glad you brought that one up, Gavin. And I also wanted to say, I mean, with Kevin's exercise here, with this open, expansive body posture, for a lot of people, that brings to mind straight away Amy Cuddy's work on power posing. How many of you are aware of that as coaches? And many of you will be aware. So there was lots of hands up there, and goodness, didn't that take off wildfire? That there was this this word power and the posture of our bodies and how we could empower ourselves. And many of you may know, and I just want to clear this up in case it's a niggle in the back of your mind, that her work was, some of the science behind her work was discredited, and there was a response that she came up with. And at that point in history of science, the whole of the scientific world came down very hard on the way that not only Amy Cuddy, but other social psychologists were dealing with their statistics, the statistical P curve. And she came under great criticism because nobody could replicate the levels of testosterone and cortisol shift. But you don't need to worry, because all of her research that was about what happens when you have expanded and opened your body, we call it a winner pose, by the way, there's some other research underneath it. But there's no doubt from her research that when you open and expand your body position before events that will require you to feel powerful, like job interviews or pitches for investment, you are more likely to get the job and get the investment if you have done that open, expansive body posture prior. And if you're interested in this, you know, another angle on this, we've been working with this for years. We took our sort of research and information from many sources, but one book that you might like to read is The Winner Effect by Ian Robertson. And he talks about winner posing and how the testosterone and the dopamine surge when we achieve something becomes a memory in our bodies. So if we then do it again when we want to prepare for something difficult, we've got the information that we are achieving, we are an achiever, we are somebody that is empowered. So these things connect, and I wanted to just clear that up straight away for you all. Now, when we're coaching with confidence, it's a dialogue, isn't it? So, you know, when you're in dialogue, I'm sure many of you will notice that there are visible physiological changes when people move into different states, when they're telling you about a state of where they really, you know, just didn't know what to do. They felt suddenly that they're low confidence, their anxiety perhaps was rising. Their body will start to perhaps contract, get smaller. Their eyes will tend to go down, their shoulders might go up, their breath might shorten, these kind of things. And this is a change of state as they're remembering. And of course, when people tend to get louder and more expansive when they're really feeling, hey, I did that. And of course, because we've got a natural negative bias as human beings, we're designed to sort of survive first, and then make sure that there's no one coming to steal our food before we sit down and enjoy the taste of the food. So we are designed to have a little bit of a negative bias, and that is indicative of how much we tend to celebrate our achievements, and how much we tend to focus on the things that are not going right and where we're not feeling right and good in ourselves. So important to know that posture and body is an important part of this, but it's part of our conversation of coaching. It's not do this and you'll be okay. It's how does that feel in your body? How does it feel in your body when you talk about that? And how does it feel in your body if you were to expand a little bit and then talk about it? And what happens if you go all the way, so it's a dialogue. We're not going, here's the medicine, here's the result. We're saying work with it. It's a dialogue. All right. So I had a funny experience the other day. Well, was it funny? Yeah, it was quite funny when you look back on it. For me, sometimes my confidence levels can still drop. And particularly when I compare myself to somebody else. So I was driving along the other day, listening to a podcast by Brené Brown, a heroine, perhaps for many of us, a hero for many of us. And I started to go into a mode that I'm very familiar with, which is compare and despair. Right? She's written 5 books and she's a professor. I've written one main book and I'm just doing my PhD now. So it was suddenly I started to measure myself against Brené Brown. There's no need for me to do that, but I did that. I was driving the car and I felt that change in my body, and I looked down at the dashboard and I had gone over the speed limit, and I'd started to speed up because my cortisol levels had risen because of this kind of thought process I was in. I'm delivering more adrenaline, and I'd speeded up. So my accelerator arousal system had taken over. And of course I took breaths, slowed down. But what was happening there was my cortisol and adrenaline were rising, but my testosterone was dropping. So I put me in a situation just after I'd had that thought where I needed risk tolerance and confidence, and I would have been less effective, as I would obviously want to be and prepare to be when I need to. So these things are happening all the time. It's about catching them. Absolutely adore Brené Brown, and I'm glad she's in my life, and I don't need to compare and despair, but it's a lovely little, who else compares and despairs sometimes? I think it's really common because we're sort of busy going, oh, have I done enough to be part of this society? Am I good enough? Is it enough? Or am I a fake and a fraud? And there comes in the imposter syndrome. So this is called being a human being. But the key thing about developing our physical intelligence is we can start to catch the turning tides of these chemicals. If we name them, it's like naming an emotion. We can name a chemical state. And then we know it's chemistry because we can feel the movement of the neuropeptides of emotion that are that chemistry. We can feel them in our bodies, and therefore it's a signal to be able to say, hey, that's happening. What do I choose to do with it? All right. So to add on to that story, sort of to enrich the picture of confidence, is this. My state that took me to compare and despair didn't just start in that moment of hearing Brené Brown. It started much earlier in the day. You know, the dog has had a very bad leg. I wasn't able to run with the dog, so I didn't have my exercise to sort of burn up excess cortisol. Quite often I wake up with a lot of energy, and sometimes I'm thinking about a lot of things, and that's cortisol driven. It's a good thing. It wakes us up, it gets us into action. But actually, beyond a certain point, it takes us into hyper arousal. We've just got too much of it, and we would tend to sort of go loud. I would tend to go louder and bluff a little bit and push. And so I hadn't had the run with the dog, and a couple of other things had happened that morning that had disrupted the things that I know really get my chemical cocktail in the right place. So how we prime our inner chemistry also impacts what kind of thoughts we might have in response to stimulus as the day goes on. So that's really important. So any of you already, and I'm sure there are people here using some sort of breath technique or way of getting yourself ready for the day, or perhaps you center yourselves, anything that you're doing to prepare your state for the day ahead, so you're performing with confidence, is a good thing, and you're less likely then to get triggered by these things. And then the other fact is, even though I calmed myself down and I got back on the speed limit, later on that day, I've still got the resonance of that going through my body. So, you know, these things have an impact that goes forward. It might mean that, you know, I'm a bit grumpy with my husband later on, you know. So start to, I'm sure you already are, but start to watch how your own confidence levels, that dialogue that you have with yourself, how are you setting yourself up for that? And what happens afterwards? Start to look at the bigger arc of time around these things, and just go with curiosity. And also know, you know, what, last thing about this, but what are your patterns? What are you likely to do? You know, if I get a cortisol rise, and I feel that testosterone drop, then in my attempts to get my testosterone up, I might, as I said already, speak a little bit louder, push a little bit more. I go into hyper arousal. But some people will tend more to go into hypoarousal. They'll go very quiet, they'll withdraw, and the kind of connection with people that the rest of the day might might not be as I guess it's presence, really. We might not be as present because we've gone inside ourselves. The chemistry of cortisol, and cortisol is rising. The adrenaline of the moment is gone. And what we're left with this too high cortisol and a very low testosterone. So people that go hypoarousal don't bring their testosterone back up. They won't expand their body and expand their space and use their voice to make them feel more powerful. They will reduce, they'll let their testosterone stay reduced. Does that make sense? And they're not doing anything physically to change it. So there'll be a more internal, little bit of collapse, quietening, distancing, pulling away, withdrawing. And that's hypoarousal. And these are states that are influenced by which nerve? Our vagus nerve. I'm sure many of you know about the vagus nerve. That is one of the 10 central nerves. It's called the vagus nerve because it's the only one that is not attached to the base of the spine. It wanders off like a vagabond, vagus, vagabond, V-A-G-U-S. It wanders off to the heart, the lungs, the gut, comes up to the throat, the neck, which is how come when cortisol levels rise, the vagus nerve is struggling to bring us into balance, that our voices can close down. Does anybody have that when you're trying to be your most confident? Actually, you feel suddenly your voice has gone thinner. It's literally a contraction of the muscles around the throat due to raised cortisol levels. I love that, Roland. What happens in the vagus doesn't stay in the vagus. Unfortunately not. No, it sort of really affects our whole state. Our thoughts, our emotions are all caught up in that nervous system. It goes to the social expressive system as well. And the face, the eyes, the vagus nerve goes there as well. So when we shut down or when we bluff, there'll be different tensions in our faces. And of course, what we're looking is to balance that vagus nerve. So we're in a balanced vagal. We've got good vagal tone, is what it's called. So let's just look at some of these questions. I understand the vagus nerve can only be accessed externally by 1 point on the ear. Is that correct? I've never heard that. We'll have to do some research there. That's possible. Yeah, possible. 1 point on the ear. Curious. Love it. Yes, Supana, great question. I'm curious about how to raise testosterone levels once they drop. Claire mentioned raising one's voice. What else? So yes, I mean, you don't want to go too far the other way into hyperarousal, but if you find that your testosterone levels have dropped, then we've got some, clear things that you can do and share with others on the menu for today. And those will be around, pacing your breath. So you start to generate some of the performance enhancing steroids in the adrenal glands. And you can do that by starting to pace your breathing, just pacing it, to stabilize the adrenals. And that starts to change the chemistry straight away. I'm not proposing that you start to sort of expand the chest and chest beat and dominate, but I would certainly lengthen the spine, broaden the shoulders, take a breath, center yourselves. That concept of centering will bring testosterone levels back up. Self-talk, visualization, some of these things that we're going to work on today. I've got a really key visualization for you. So in a minute, I'm going to ask you to remember a couple of situations. One when you felt really confident and the other where you didn't feel as confident. Yeah. And we're going to just explore those a little bit and then get into some techniques that you can use to obviously raise those certain chemicals that we really want to have happening. Can we have a brief look just at some of the chemistry that I've talked about? Can we have the chemistry of confidence slide for a moment, please, just so we've got a visual on this?
Sure, one moment, Claire, coming up.
Thank you very much. So you can start to think about what's a moment where you felt really, really confident, and what is a moment where actually your confidence left you for a little while. And we're going to work on that. So we've got cortisol and the catabolic chemicals that come from that. So they're derivatives of it, stress and threat. We've got a chemical I haven't mentioned yet, DHEA, which is dehydroepiandrosterone. That's the performance enhancing steroid that we can start to, build more of. It's a cortisol balancer. And if we pace our breathing and we start to do things that bring us centering, things I'm going to show you today, and I'm sure that you know some of these things, but we're going to build on them with really what is their transformational potential. DHEA, a performance enhancing steroid in the adrenals. And by the way, the synthetic version of DHEA is a banned substance for Olympic athletes. We would never recommend you take it. You can buy it on the American market, but you have to be prescribed it here. And I think the doctors, practically never do that now, but you might have a different story. But DHEA we can make naturally, and we're looking at natural DHEA that we make. And then testosterone, which for a woman of my age, there's not so much around right at the moment. So, but we're very sensitive to small changes in it. So it's only a small change that brings us from, oh, I just don't know, can I get out of the duvet today? Or I'm up for the day, I'm ready. So it's a small nudge in testosterone that gets you there. Thank you very much, Chloe. We will go to and explore the fourth chemical as well. You can see dopamine is going to come into the picture today as we create a visualization that will help talk to our imposter syndrome. Thank you very much, Chloe. We can take those slides down now for a moment. So are you ready to experience something? We're just going to really research these two different states for ourselves. And I'm hoping it's really not too difficult for you all to find a moment where you really, you felt, oh, I've done that well, or I'm feeling so ready for this, or I'm confident, and I feel optimistic, and I'm confident, and I feel good in my entire system feels ready. Or it might be pre, or it might be post something when you've done something difficult and you realize that you really brought your confidence to that. Maybe you've been struggling for it before, but you got it. All right. So can everybody, if you like that, if you like to close your eyes or it works for you, then please do. If not, you can just soften the eyes or leave them open and focus on one object that doesn't have a lot of detail in it. Whatever feels right for you, you're in charge here, all right? And you know your system. And then I want you to take a breath, get your body grounded, so good contact with the ground through the soles of the feet. And then just let your body really have this feeling of, remember it, and let your body have this feeling of confidence dialed up. Just start to notice what's happening. What's changing in the body? How does your body move into that state of confidence? What's the breath like? What is the quality of the muscles around the eyes? What's the muscle tone of the body? What's the organization of the bones, the posture? And what does it feel like? What are the sensations in your torso, in your limbs? What's happening in the muscles of the face and the facial expression? What does it feel like in your mind and in your brain? Two different things. And can you take a breath? Can you dial it up even more? And remember that, but dial it, if it's 7 out of 10, dial it up in intensity to 10 out of 10. Let's have full on feeling. And then when you've done that, then I'd love you to come out and then just note down in the chat what that felt like. All of the things you noticed for yourself, and everyone's different. Just what did you notice? What the top few things you noticed when you you moved into that state of confidence. And of course, it's the blood supply in the ear. That's where you put your sensor if you're going to measure your HRV on some of the biofeedback equipment that I've used. So yes, it's making sense now. And I like what Shelley said. I feel like I go into hyperarousal in the moment, can be loud, almost aggressive, but then drop into hypo immediately after. Yes, that is absolutely possible, because you let it go. Your testosterone rises along with your cortisol, and there you go into the situation, trying to drive, trying to sort it, trying to speak, whatever it is you're trying to do. And then afterwards you fear, gosh, have I damaged some of the relationships here, or have I been a certain way that's going to not serve me well in the future? And so your confidence drops, you've got testosterone drop, but probably also an oxytocin level drop if you've been interacting with others, and that takes you into the hypoarousal. So absolutely. So I can see lots of people replying here. This is great. Tingling everywhere, says Denise. Lovely. Felt physically big and really, really light. Couldn't feel the pressure of my seat yet. Easy, soft, easy. You can see each other's here. So if you've already written yours, then scroll back and have a look. Wendy, joy, strength. Yes. And thanks for saying thank you, Lynn. Tingling. So the nervous system is enlivening by remembering that system, remembering that situation. Opening around the collarbone, love that. And shoulders and smile and strong feet, lovely, deep breaths. Great stuff, everyone. I won't read them all out because you can read each other's. So I like that what you're saying, Katie Allen. Yeah, body felt softer, not rigid. So rigidity is a sign of over, cortisol levels being too high, and that is such a good signifier. And in fact, in the Coaching with Physical Intelligence 3-month course, in module 3, we really look at tension, where it's coming from, what that dialogue is between us and our tension that we hold, and getting into the text of it and the subtext of it, and what is the message from our bodies when we're holding tension. And this start of that dialogue can be so powerful in the way we coach. Openness and space in the chest, lovely. An urge to dance and move, Roland, lovely. I love that. I get that too. And Amanda's saying the same, urge to jump around. All right, great stuff. So that can be something that you revisit as part of a preparation protocol for a higher stakes event. Right there, what you've just done. And so I'd like to make a little list of the things that I can do to get myself ready for higher stakes events. That's your list, going to be a list for the day. And then, of course, as soon as we know something for ourselves, we can offer, interact, coach with, coach on, have a dialogue with these things. And as soon as you start including the body, where do you feel that in your body? Then you start a dialogue of potential use of the body to transform state, potential use of the body to transform our state. So now we're going to just look at the opposite. Now, being trauma aware here, you're in charge. Do not choose an event that may trigger you. You know, if you've got some of those in your stock of, you know, experiences, life experiences, you're in charge here. So what I'm looking for here is a safe moment for you, which enables you to just remember what it was like to not feel as confident as you'd like to in a particular situation. Okay. Just that. And I hear you, Rachel. I didn't really feel anything. I hear you. And sometimes these things take time. Sometimes there's something in the way. Sometimes the way I've set it up just doesn't sort of float your boat, and there'll be another way. And so just, I would say, let's not worry. This is one moment, and there's a way into sort of, yeah, feeling that with you in this relationship here in this short moment. I haven't found that way yet to help you, and over your side, you haven't found that yet, but it's okay. Check that you're breathing though, because actually when you start breathing, you can start feeling. Breathing and feeling go together because the diaphragm clutches around the solar plexus. I won't go into that whole thing now, but breathing and the diaphragm clamp down on one of the feeling centers of the body. So, you know, just check your breath, I would say, Rachel. That's all I'm saying. That's a first thing. Okay, I can see you doing it there. So we're going to go into this now, just briefly. So a moment in time, check your breath. Take a generous breath to sort of prepare you to go into this, and then think back to a moment in time where your confidence dropped. And with a open-minded curiosity, just as you take yourself back to that moment, what was happening in your body? And just recreate that in this proxy way that we're creating here. What's happening in your muscle tone? And the core, what's happening in your core? Or maybe there's nothing happening in your core that you can feel. What's happening in your breath? What's happening with the muscles around the eyes? What's happening with the placement of the spine and how you're holding yourself? What's happening in the jaw? What's happening in the face? Just take a moment to notice exactly for you what the signifiers are of being in that lowered state of confidence. Maybe in this one, it's where your imposter syndrome comes and starts to talk to you as well, and starts to interfere. And when you've done that, you can come out of it, shake it off a little bit, and let us know in the chat what was happening there. Oh, Katie, yes, mouth dry. I was thinking about when I had to be filmed. Yeah. I had a bit of that right up until we created the coaching course, and then I had to make so many films for that. It got me over it. I just did it until I didn't feel that anymore. Core collapsing, shaky butterflies. So flat, weakened, deflated, shoulders sag, breathing comes shorter and faster, jaw tense, core and jaw tense up. Yes, says David. Like trying to think underwater, Sana. Yeah. It's funny, it's interesting, isn't it, when you start to watch your eye movement, shallow breathing, Katie Allen saying, eyes flashing behind my eyelids. Rachel, don't start to freak out if you've got only a few things happening. You know, don't worry about this. I'd love to know what your experience of that was. So curling body inwards, says Christina. Notice aches in the body. That's really interesting, Lynn, isn't it? That you noticed aches. So our cortisol levels do impact the amount of lactic acids we have in our body, and the sort of the aches and the pains and the breakdown of cortisol. And you would have got a mini sort of surge of cortisol there, and then when it starts to break down these catabolic chemicals, they are toxins. So we do need to flush them out, and I'm going to give you a way of flushing them out today. Yes, that doesn't sound nice, Amanda. Okay. All right. You felt hot, Rachel. Brilliant. All right. So that's the cortisol rising, which creates energy in your body. That cortisol made the cells in key areas of your body that would want to either get ready to fight or run away. It made them produce energy. So the heat was coming from the oxidization of energy in the cells of your body. So well done for getting that feel. It's so important, you know, this just to get a little, once you get a bit of awareness. Anyone else had this experience? Like once you get a bit of, you can be really numb or not feeling. And once you get a little bit, then that grows, you know, and a little bit starts to open the door. It's like the doors open. But also sometimes we need support to go into the body, because the body is holding stories and history. So sometimes it's just about being with somebody else while you experience that. And certainly I've benefited from that over my many years of working with the body, having support. All right, so from what I've said, can you just write down in the chat now what was happening chemically, just so that you get to write it? What was happening for you chemically there, just so you get to play it back? What was happening with your cortisol? What was happening with your testosterone? What was happening to your DHEA levels? You can note it down for yourselves or in the chat, just a little sort of chemistry check. You know, when you write it, it sort of the neuroplasticity, it helps to get it into your system. So all of that is chemistry. So write that down somewhere, wherever you can. We're recalling. Lovely to get that coming in the chat. And we'll quickly show, Kevin, would you just quickly show the performance pathway so you can see some of the richness of this? Yeah, that's right. So Gavin, you're onto it. Absolutely right. This we won't go into this detail now, but we really dig into it in detail in the course for coaches. But you can see how with a different balance of cortisol and DHEA, you can wake up differently. So when adrenaline comes up and adrenaline wakes you up, you can get going rather than getting going with a bit of frustration, anxiety, worry. Will it be okay? Will I have enough confidence? Am I good enough? You can rather get into things with more enthusiasm, self-belief, motivation, passion. And cortisol really drags the chemical cocktail of feeling good down. After it's woken us up and got us into action, it goes a little bit too high and it stays there for a while. And the chemical cocktail of dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and testosterone reduces and imbalances. It's not as easy to get it back into balance. Whereas on the left-hand side of the grid, DHEA, those can balance and play and enhance each other, and a bit more serotonin makes you feel that you've got self-belief and you can reach out and you get a boost of oxytocin, and therefore you create more virtuous cycles there of chemistry, and all that leads to transformation. So this is a very important coaching tool in our curriculum. Thank you very much, Kevin. That's brilliant. So I guess you would want to have some techniques, some ways of lowering cortisol, boosting testosterone, and getting, getting some dopamine in the system as well, and some DHEA. So look, I'd first just like to get you to really just understand the basic breath pattern that gets you into what's called a state of coherence, where cortisol is balanced with DHEA. And all you can do right now, even if you're still writing, is simply just start to pace your breath. So it's going into the abdomen. So the breath is diaphragmatic, smooth, but it's also, the key factor is that it's rhythmic. Okay, so very simply letting the breath find a rhythm, and then you can find some gentle counts to it. You're not pushing or pulling the breath, but you're just finding some counts that will give you a rhythm. So I've often been working with 4 in, 4 out, and now more and more I'm trying to work with 5 in, 5 out, because I'm trying to slow my breath pattern over time, because we're patterned. We can do these things gradually, because I want to be breathing about six times a minute. That's what I'm aiming for. Haven't quite got there yet, but that's the optimal. So everybody got that? And you can just keep on doing that through the session. And I'm sure you'll have many different breath practices, but you whatever the rhythmic pattern you're working with, whatever kind of breathing you're doing, it's the rhythmic pattern that gives you that adrenal stability and the DHEA. And now I just want to share with you my sort of version of centering. And there are just 3 steps to it. And this is a really good preparation routine, something you could, for example, if you're not already doing some centering work at the beginning of your coaching, you could offer that to coaching clients at the beginning to just settle them and get them into a confident state for the session, and an open state as well. Can we just have a look at the centering technique, please, Chloe? So there are 3 words, and I say this to myself often if I'm realizing I'm going a bit into hyperarousal, because I've got a lot of energy and it can just sort of tip over. And let's put that on slide.
Yep, sorry, just bear with me.
That's all right. So there are 3 words: balance, breathe, and focus. And those are just the 3 perfect words that take us into a feeling of being centered, something that gives us confidence on the inside and lets it, gently exude into the outside. And it also gets us in touch with this central area of the body, which is behind the navel. So first of all, just wherever you are, you might want to, if your body likes to stand and do stuff, please feel free to stand at this moment, and then we'll build on this as well. You've got, if you're standing, you can do this seated, that's fine. Just get feet on the ground, get your bum nicely seated in the chair, or wherever you're sitting, wherever you are, just distribute your weight in a balanced way over the supports. So the balance issue is just to find your center of gravity wherever you are. And to do that, not gripping and not bracing the knees, but to let the knee joints be soft. So you can feel gravity playing down through your body, and you can feel the center of that gravity over your supports. So you can, if you like, you can move to one side, to the other side, wherever you are, moving forwards, moving back. And it's quite good actually, Rachel, to sit forward in your chair for this, if that works for your body. So move the chair back a bit, bring your bottom forward. So you're self-supporting your spine a little bit. And then that gives you more of a feeling of you taking charge of your centering. Does that make sense? Great. So working on the feeling of balance. And if you've used some of the extremes, then what happens? What's it like when you try and release and find the center of gravity? Find a place where you feel balanced over the supports, wherever those supports are. And you might notice that in that, when you've got balanced over your supports, it's easier for the breath just to easily pass into the body, because the abdominal muscles are not having to support an off-balance situation or any agitation. They're just able to settle, and the breath can more easily fill. So remembering that pacing of the breath. And then that third word, focus. And that just simply means bring your awareness to your mind, how it's operating, bring it to the front part of your brain and let it have a clear space. Let yourself create clarity. There's no busy thoughts, just a move to clarity. Okay, and we're going to speed up this process a little bit now. So I want you to disrupt yourself. Thank you. You can take the slide down now. Disrupt yourself a little bit. Just get a bit, move the head around, agitate yourself a little bit, move off center. I don't know what your normal agitated, exaggerated agitation is. You can see Rachel's shoulders going up and down and moving, a little bit of confusion. And then I'm going to clap my hands and then I want you to go balance, breathe, focus, and just feel what that's like as a process. So agitation, confusion, and go. Balance. Breathe to the center. Focus. That might have been quick for you. It might have been slow for you. You might have been able to do it at that pace. We're going to do it once more. That's the kind of thing. And then you take yourself through it. Balance, breathe, focus in your time. Okay, so one more. Confusion, disruption. Oh, that email's just come in. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, gosh, those thoughts. Oh, my goodness. Whatever it is. And fantastic. Okay, so write that down on your list as the second thing. Well, you might have already a few things on your list, but write it on your list of things that can balance and boost the chemistry of confidence. Because you're getting your feet on the ground and giving your body the information that you're balanced, that helps the vagus nerve, parasympathetic nerve. The vagus nerve is the primary nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system. It enables that to activate and bring in enough acetylcholine to counteract the adrenaline. Then the adrenals will start, as you breathe to the center, the adrenals start to produce more DHEA as you get into that rhythmic pattern. And then when you focus, your you're actually starting to work with your dopamine system, which is very connected with the visual cortex of the brain. And we're going to work a little bit more with that in just a moment. So I've got a final offer for you in terms of reducing cortisol levels. Are you ready to move on? I've got one more of these, and we're going to do the visualization I've been talking about. We're going to hear from an opera singer as well. So this one we're going to do real quick. I did this yesterday. I had a couple of things. I wanted to move to work on my PhD in the afternoon. And you know, if anyone done any study, you just know what that takes. You need a really positive attitude. You need to kind of get there. And a few things were niggling me at the end of the morning. And I was about to make that transition. And I thought, I cannot go to what I wrote yesterday in this state. I will perceive it probably more negatively than I need to. And I did not want to get in a spin about evaluating what I'd written yesterday. So I did this. And this is a gift to anyone that gets these, surges of cortisol rising and starts to spot them and does not want to allow them to take over. And it's called the shakeout. And here's how I did it yesterday. And then I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. You can do it in your own, absolutely your own way, because you've all got different spines. Some of you might be protecting a back injury. Some of you might be like to do things vigorously like I do. Some of you might want to, do this more gently, but we've got to get, we've got to use the energy that cortisol provides, and we've got to flush out the chemistry of negative emotion that stays around in our bodies. And because we're fluid and these are chemicals, we can flush the body out and get the catabolic chemicals into the lymph system, draining away, and we're free of them. So this is the way I do it. Then you can do your way of doing it. I usually just start a shake standing up, called the shakeout, and we're getting the flush going. It's like the dog shaking themselves out. Dogs shake themselves out after they've had a bit of an emotional tough with someone in the park or another dog, And then I usually go forwards like this. Until whatever it is that's been bringing my cortisol levels up, till the cortisol starts to go down. And then I will slowly roll up. And I'll get into my centering. And you'll know if you've managed to sort of get that cortisol down. So I don't know what's been annoying you recently, or maybe you're thinking about that moment, the way your confidence was a little bit dropping. Whatever it is, just take 2 minutes now for yourselves. How do you want to, how next time you feel that, how are you going to do your shakeout? So explore it now in a way that keeps your body safe. If you have any high blood pressure or low blood pressure, don't put your head lower than your waist. And in fact, if it's you really have blood pressure issues, don't drop the head at all, please. Just do a shake that is keeping the head above the shoulders. If your spine is needing to be protected, please take it slowly and find where you can find some movement, because that cortisol goes through the whole body and needs to be flushed out. It's good to make sound. The sound itself frees the making of the sound, frees the diaphragm. Using our voices demands that the diaphragm moves, and that helps to free up the transmission of neurotransmitters. And this can be really done as you choose. And Sanna's saying that it's the same with horses, and Roland's saying it's like a teeny exorcism. You know what? I've never thought of it like that, but I do feel that if you like, that the demons might be the demons of the imposter syndrome, just getting them out of the system. Yeah. Yeah, lovely. And you know, all of this has got research underneath it. So what we're really doing here, once we've got the cortisol drain, is we're really rebooting serotonin and dopamine. The precursors of those chemicals are right there in the spinal fluid, in the spinal column, and we start to disperse that. And once the cortisol shifts, then those chemicals can make us feel good. And you know, if you've done your shakeout, just write any notes about how that made you feel. Pop it in the chat. And then Kevin's, I think we're just going to put up the paced breathing research, so you know, you can get a sense, you know, every technique, the winner pose has got science underneath it. And one of the amazing things about the paced breathing that you've been doing, although we haven't gone deeply into breath practice at all, I've just said pace your breathing, and you've just been doing it. There's a whole lot of science underneath breath practice, which I'm sure you know about. But this particular research, Dr. Justin Kennedy, paced breathing technique increases cognitive function by potential 62%. And this is amazing, isn't it? This is was done on a group of financial executives. Actually, they were in South Africa, and they were taken off the financial floor where they were making their calls and things for 40 minutes a day. So they were 10 minutes 4 times a day. And after 3 weeks, they were measured in their bloods, I think in their blood, and also their heart rate variability was measured, and their cognition on complex decision-making tasks was measured through how much escalation was happening, what was going on in the way that they were handling their decision-makings. They had various ways of tagging that throughout the 3 weeks. And that was it, 62% improvement in cognitive function. And they also experienced, on average, 42% reduction in stress symptoms. And all of this relates to our confidence, doesn't it? All right, lovely. Nice to hear a few of the things. If the shakeout takes your self-consciousness to the limit, a step too far, that's okay too. We have to respect, you know, the way that we're used to using our body. You know, we are all different. So there's no, I have to suddenly extrovert myself and do these massive shakeouts. A little can go a long way in the physical intelligence world as well. All right, lovely. So we're going to now look at dopamine, and we're going to think about the imposter syndrome a little bit more. Let's hear a lovely opera singer called Nadine Benjamin, who is an incredible woman. She's going to talk about her experience and her imposter syndrome. And let's start with that, Kevin, if you're ready. Always hoping the film.
What have you had to overcome to be where you are today?
Well, I think I've had different levels of imposter syndrome. It started from leaving the corporate world and then jumping into this artistic world that I knew nothing about. From never going to university to, you know, never going to conservatoire, to being turned down from all the conservatoires in London, from going into an operatic stage, to being told I should just go and sing jazz. I'd never be an opera singer. I have felt an imposter the whole way through my learning. And I've had to kind of keep building this quiet confidence within myself. During the pandemic, I wasn't very well, and I was on chemotherapy, and I get this phone call out of the blue from the Royal Opera House, and they say, in 2 weeks' time, we want you to come and perform on our stage as a soloist. And this is inside a pandemic. And I was just like, that's my dream. That's my dream. And I could see my dream just there. And oh boy, did imposter syndrome come and knock its lovely little hand on my shoulder. And I did the dress rehearsal. So it was to an audience in the pandemic. So I did the dress rehearsal, And I don't know what happened in the dress rehearsal, but then, you know, when imposter syndrome starts to infect your brain, and it's like you've got this bug, and it's like someone has put poison in it, and you start to, well, this is what had my experience. I started to crumble. I started to go, I can't do this. This is too much pressure. You know, I started to, and I really noticed it. And the delivery of what I gave, because I'm a professional, was okay, but it wasn't great. And I walked off the stage and I cried my heart out because I had the real thing that afternoon, that evening. And for the first time in my whole 47 years, I rang my mum. And I said, Mum, I'm going to be on a screen that's going to be showing to millions of people. It's my first time on the Royal Opera House stage. I've had 2 weeks and I'm literally, I feel like I can't do this. Like, supposing I do it all wrong. And, you know, I didn't come from conservatoire and I've got here too early and da 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 da. And she said, what are you teaching people? And I said, yeah, exactly. This is exactly why I'm coming to you. And she said, you go and stand in that mirror. And you go and visualize yourself and you do all the things that you've always told me to do, and you stand and you tell yourself who you are. And then you read Psalm 121 and then you go out on that stage and you do what you're supposed to do. And I did exactly that. And what I did is as well as physicalizing, I spoke to myself and I affirmed to my brain, and I went out onto that stage that evening and I smashed it. You know, when I first started in performance, I used to leave myself. And this is I feel really emotional when I talk about this, because it's a really sad thing for an artist when you know that you can be so much better and you leave her in the wings and you just bring a skeleton to the stage and you perform as a skeleton, but the actual abundance of who you are isn't shown. And you get to the end of the performance and you walk back into the body, but you feel so disappointed by what you put out because you knew that that wasn't you. It was just this skeleton, this framework of who you were, who you thought you should be, or, you know, or who you didn't understand you could be at that time.
That's very evocative, isn't it? That's the skeleton performing out there and the essence of the person left in the wings. Interesting, she phones her mum. So first thing she instinctively does to get the cortisol down is go and get some oxytocin from her mum. And then for her, Psalm 121 works. But for others of us, we'll have, you know, different things that we go to that might be a mantra or a prayer or something we say to ourselves. So simply, whatever we're using to give us that input of language and neurological programming through words and language. So those are two things that she did. And then the visualization she's talking about is called the I, and we're going to do that together now as the last thing that we do together today. So Kevin, anything you want to add before I move into the I? Is there anything I have missed?
Not really, other than Nadine is also a graduate of the Physical Intelligence Program and sits in our community in the Institute, so you can interact with her. And she's also a coach, bringing her own experience, but also her wonderful embodiedness of using the voice, another important aspect for us as coaches, helping people find their voice, make sound, move an audience, hold firm, say no, all of those things. She's a rather magnificent human being as well.
She is. A very quick anecdote. So I had a big birthday party the other week, and she came to it, and we sang Happy Birthday, as you do, and she started to sing, and literally within about sort of 5 seconds, everybody else had stopped singing, and my goosebumps, you know, when you're in the room with her voice. We'll play you a bit of her voice later on, but actually feeling it there, singing Happy Birthday was an electric moment for everybody in the room, and it created a memory of incredible memory for that particular birthday. And it was a big birthday. I won't tell you which one. All right. So we're going to create this visualization, which lots of people all over the world are using. People high up in the civil service, the British civil service, are using to help them find a way into situations that they find particularly challenging when their imposter would interfere. One particular man used this, a very intelligent man, very high up in the British civil service, hated networking. And always his imposter would come in. I can't be a leader if I don't want to kind of socially network. I hate this part of my job and I'm a rubbish, and that would all be going on. His imposter would jump right in, and he created a particular visualization in the way that I'm going to share with you now. And it completely transformed his ability to go into this room and network and just be with people and move from conversation to conversation. So you can imagine what kind of impact that had on him able to do his role. And he was doing a very important role, so it probably had an impact worldwide, actually, the fact that he was more easy in that situation. He could really listen, because high cortisol stops us listening, right? We really can't engage as well. Right, so this is the I. We all visualize, we all imagine what it might be like to be on holiday. We quite often, most of us, there's 0.02% of the population have real trouble visualizing anything. Some people say that they can't, but then with a bit of practice they can. And there are ways of handling all of that. We're just going to see how we do with this, but we all do visualize because we plan ahead and we imagine how things are going to be. We remember things. And also we've got a very vivid imagination. So if I give you now, if I say, I'm cutting up some lemon here, I've got enough for everybody, here it is, take the lemon. Can you take this bit of lemon, please? Take it now and put it in your mouths and taste this lemon. So reach out, taste the lemon, take the piece of lemon, and then bring it back and put it in your mouth and taste it. Then some people will start salivating even though there's nothing there. Not everybody, but there are some people have a kind of highway to that. We did that very quickly, but the thing is that when we imagine something and we visualize it, neurologically, to an extent, it's happening for real. Not the whole thing, but to an extent, it's happening. So it's a good way of practicing motor skills. Great thing we did as dancers. We used to go through in our heads the choreography from one day, so that when we came back next day, it was embedded and we could take on more. Anyway, lots to say about that. But we're going to create now what we call your I, and it's literally going to be about imagining a capital letter I in our bodies. Yeah, okay. Got that, Lynn. So what I'd like you to do, it's going to be a capital letter I in the English language that we're going to use as a visual image to start with. I'm going to create it in a certain way, and we'll put it inside our bodies. So if you would please just take your arm. You can be standing to do this. It's quite nice if you're standing, got some space around you. Just take your fingers and imagine you're in a mirror and you're going to draw an eye that's about the size of your torso. So just draw that, make it nice, the nice sort of clear lines. So the eye shape is there. Okay. Now, once you've done that, it should be in front of your torso. So if you're standing in front of a mirror, it should be there. Okay, and then I want you to imagine it there. There it is in front of you. You might want to close your eyes. You might want to just soften them, whatever feels right for you. But I want you to step into it and imagine it in your body. Just do that. See how that works. And just see for a moment, this is only part of the process, but just see what that gives you. What does it enable you to feel? What does it give you in terms of you, your I, your authority, your I against an imposter that's saying you're a fraud, you're a fake. I know who I am. I'm here. I'm good. Whatever your I statements are can come from this I. But at the moment, we just did it as a physical thing, and I'm just putting that in your mind to think about. Okay, step out of it. Now, there it is in front of you, and I want you to now just think, first of all, think or sense, if you were going to have a really nice lot of strength, inner strength, your identity is described in some materials. Your strength is described in some materials. What would you choose to make your I out of? That's the question. And you could close your eyes, you can think about this and just have some ideas. Would it be a metal? Would it be a natural substance of some kind, a wood or something else more fluid? Or would it be a synthetic fabric? Would it have just one element to it, or would there be other elements to it? What would it be made of? And when you're ready, you can step into the I and just let that picture, the visualization of what this is made of, just let that start to become a very clear picture. What is your I made of? This I giving you inner strength. Let your creative imagination have a play with this. It might surprise you. You might be surprised. And I'm assuming, I mean, we're only going to do this, for a short time today, and you can come back to this and enrich the picture. But I'm going to assume that you've got a sense of that. And if you haven't got a sense of materials, then you've got a sense of your I. And I want you to flip back to that situation where your confidence had dropped and replay it with your I in place. What could have been said or done? How could you have prepared yourself? What could have been different with your I with you, with your essence of you, joining your skeleton, bringing your whole self together. Your identity is right with you inside in an image in your body. And sometimes the I needs to stretch or change shape a little bit or become an object. That's all fine too. And knowing that will have worked differently for everybody. And some people don't visualize immediately straight away. It might have been too quick. Then can we see in the chat, what was your I made of? What did you come up with, if anything, right? It's a long distance visualization exercise, this one, because we're not in the same room together. We're on Zoom, but we've got two bamboos, Roland and Christina. You're something on the same wavelength there. Maybe you should connect and have a chat. Because it's so light, isn't it, bamboo? It's light to carry around, but it's got that strength. Warm and solid wood, a Roman column, mixed materials, wood, metal, clay. So we only just started, and there's some things that really were leaping to your minds. Well done. Creative imagination in the room. Great stuff, Wendy. So lovely. Short oak cylinders wrapped in steel fiber. Beautiful. Thank you, David. So we've had an incredible sort of set of stories coming through with people, how people are working with their eye, and how as coaches it can add to a real, you know, there can be a dialogue that is both creative and using imagery and not always not so much in the sort of ordinary language of life, I mean. So it takes us into a more creative place. And the next question, if I had more time with you, would be to ask, you can ask yourself this: in what ways does this material or this eye that you've chosen to create, by the way, you could always embellish and add things to it, in what way does it recognize, does it contain your strengths? In what ways does it represent? That's the word I was looking for. Represent you, your strengths, who you are. Who you are when you're strong, when your imposter has not gotten to you. Lovely detail there. That's lovely, Wendy. Wonder. It talks about your wonder. Isn't that lovely? Love your detail there, Shelley, that you're getting there. Metal rods used in arts and crafts. Yes, beautiful. So some people build wardrobes of eyes for different situations. Okay, that's just planting that idea. And you know, this is something for you to play with and explore. It's a container for you to fill as an idea, not in a do it like this. You know, I want you to explore the potentiality of that idea of an eye, of speaking from the eye. You know, take it, work with it. Be experimental with a client. See what happens. And I always think it's good to just sort of say, hey, look, I've just learned something that might help us here. Would you like to hear it? And you don't have to be the coach that knows everything or is sure that this will work. You know, it's not about that, is it? It's about the dialogue that is created. So I think we're going to sadly say goodbye in a short while, and then we'll put some of Nadine singing on to play us out, and you can stay on and listen to her sing for a little bit, or if you need to leave, that's fine. Kevin, back to you.
You are very free to join in as well. We are recording this.
Join in the singing.
We could put out a best hits medley for charity or something off the back of that. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed the sort of rather fast tour of confidence. Thanks also to your questions, diving deeper into the sort of chemistry and the science behind that. I have put in the chat where you can find us in the Institute if you're interested in the program, and look forward to seeing Roland, Francis, Gavin actually in September when we kick off again. If you'd like to join them and a couple of hundred other of our graduates, you'd be very welcome. And you can check out the Institute and see the other events on, and see the recording of this, including your singing, which will commence shortly. If you have any other questions, fire them in the chat, because we will find a way of getting you the answers, and you can easily get hold of us. And Claire will not be able to hold herself back from answering any questions that you have, or doing some further research from you. So you can make her day by asking for more of that. So thank you so much for being here today. Lovely to see you all. We'll play out with a little bit of Nadine, and hopefully it's going to be loud enough for you. It was a little bit quiet earlier when I was playing it. Thank you so much. And thank you to Claire.
Hi. Right, this seems to stop going through here. No.